I'm sure you've always heard about, or not always, but have heard about credit score, and I've always wondered what it is. Whether you're signing up for your first ever credit card or applying for a home loan, your credit score plays an important role in determining whether or not you'll be able to reach many of your financial goals. To tell us more about credit scores is acclaimed financial advisor and author Busi Selesho. Good morning, Busi, and thank you for joining me.
Good morning, Maria. I hope you're well. I hope your listeners are well this morning.
I'm sure they are good. I am, despite the weather. I mean, despite the load shedding. The weather we can deal with, but not the load shedding.
Yeah, oh, the weather is fine. The load shedding. Oh my goodness, where do we live?
All right. Let's talk credit score. First of all, what is a credit score and what is the history behind it? Where does it come from?
So, a credit score is a way where we are measured on how we behave financially. So, so that we can be able to be trusted with certain things and not trusted with other things. So the most important thing with the credit score is that you have one. That's good. Whenever you need credit, then you have one. So a lot of times we don't take care of it. So you find that someone does not get on credit until the day they really need credit and they don't have a credit score. Or someone else will just not do well with managing it, is in how you're paying. If you are not able to afford, what do you need to do so that you keep it in a place where it's okay? So if we didn't have a credit score, everybody would have to be, counted as we hope you can pay us. We're not sure if you can. But when you have a credit score, the creditors sort of have an idea that you have been able to pay others, so you can also pay us. Or you don't know how to pay people, so we're not going to be able to give money to you. So then the law says people with a high credit score, they can get lower interest rates. So when we borrow money from someone, they have the right to charge us interest rates, which is the risk they are taking with us. So if you have a high credit score, then you will have to pay more for for that loan. But if you have a good credit score, then you pay low interest rates. So that's the big thing about it, that you will have a house and you will pay less than with the same person who has a house with a bad credit score pays more, and you pay because your credit score is good. So if your credit score is good, you can afford to borrow more, and your debt will not be so expensive.
Hmm. All right. Give us examples of credit scores from bad credit scores to excellent credit scores.
Oh, the thing is, they of course different depending on what you've done and what kind of financial products you've gotten. The credit score is judged on it. But let me just say, if you're having a credit card and you're using your credit card well, you pay it in time, you pay the right percentage. Specifically, credit cards are very. What is most important with the credit card is that you know the days, you know exactly how many days you have until you will have interest to pay on all of that. If you're managing that well, credit card normally gives you a good credit score quicker than other loans. Now, the second thing from a credit card is personal loans. As much as personal loans are a little bit lesser in terms of interest as credit cards, but they also can make your credit score be better quickly. So then you have home loans and other things which are long term. A car, if you miss your car payment, your credit score goes down very quickly. So missing car payments is not a good idea. If you have to choose between a car and a house, you would rather miss a house payment than a car payment. And also between a personal loan and a credit card, you rather choose a credit card than a personal loan. Now, I'm not saying you should be, planning your life like this, of course. But if there are times where you will have to choose, then that is how you know that which one is going to hurt you the most.
All right. Now, I'd like to know some examples, like what are the figures that we should be concerned about? What is a good credit score? Because we'll see something that is like 700, and we'll see something which is 500, but we're not sure what if it's a
Mm,
good number or if it's a bad number. So
yeah.
where should we be in terms of these numbers?
Okay. So the numbers sometimes they are quite tricky to get.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of percentages, you should look at it in terms of percentages. So the credit companies will say to you up to 40% you are on the rate. Then you start to be yellow from 41 to about I think 69. Then
Mm-hmm.
orange, and then I think there's yellow, then there's orange, and then there's green. Green starts at about 79.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are, let's say you having you are renting a home, you're paying a rental as well, you're paying your car well if you have a car, and you have maybe a few um uh, store accounts that you're paying well. Those are good. So if you miss the DSTVs and this and this and this, but you will definitely be there just around about 69% or so. So those are good. The big things obviously count more points than the small things. But also, if you keep the small things for too long, then they can hurt you with, while they take less points, but then once they've made the judgment, then it's a problem. And also, the small things I've seen a lot of times, people go into consolidation because of small things rather than big things. So small things, they have less points, but they can hurt you the most when there's a judgment. So try to cancel all the small things. Have the big things. The big things don't get into judgment mode quickly. And yeah, it takes long for a house to go into judgment mode. So those are the things you want to have.
Mm-hmm. Okay, what is a FICO score and a Vantage score?
What? Sorry, I did
FICO,
not get that.
it's called FICO, FICO, and then the other one is called Vantage score. Are they both part of the entire credit score?
Yes. So those are calculated depending on what kind of loan you are taking. So
Okay.
there are loans that are, what do they call them? Um uh the ones where you take them with assurance. There are loans that you take them without assurance.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're taking a loan that has assurance, you're saying I'm taking this loan and I'm going to put my house as a collateral. Or
Mm-hmm.
you're taking one that is not that doesn't have a collateral, which means then of course the one without collateral you're gonna pay more. So in the one with collateral, you're going to pay less in terms of interest rates. So those depend with that. So a lot of times, the personal loans and all those kind of small loans, they don't have collateral. And sometimes the bigger loans like house and maybe not a car, but house and other important things have that. So that is the difference between the two. So the advantage one is the one that you always want to use, but the other one is when you don't have money, you totally don't have money, and you just need a personal loan. You will have to use the other one, which then will cost you more, of course.
Mm-hmm. All right. Now, how long does it take for a credit score to increase, and what can you do to improve your credit score?
So a credit score changes every 3 to 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Now, depending on how much activity you have on your profile. So if you are having an account that you're paying well, let's say you started to pay a little bit more, over 3 months, your credit score can change to up to 6 months. Or if you have an account that you've missed maybe 3 or 4 times in that period, then the credit score can go bad. So, but if you have a lot of activity, so it takes 3 months. If you've got about as little as possible activity, then you can up to a year your credit score can change. But depending on the activity, it changes quicker. Or yeah, depending on the activity, it can be quicker if you have a lot of stuff that's happening.
Mm-hmm. All right. And how can we improve our credit scores?
Improving the credit score is so important, like I said, because every time your credit score is better, the people that you owe do not have the right to charge you more for the credit. So if you pay a little bit extra, so I mean, when I coach, I mean, I least credit you have, and just focus that on that one to pay double. You will come out of it very quick, but then what you will do is that your credit score will shoot up points system. So if you take the least amount, let's say you have a retail account where you're paying 200 rand and you pay 400 rand, that will do so well for your score. But also that credit will get paid in months or 24 months. You were able to pay it within a very good period, which means also it increases your it makes your credit score look good. So it is so important that if you are gonna be borrowing anything from anybody, make sure that your credit score is good because it will save you a lot of money. Debt is very expensive.
Mm-hmm. Right. So one question that I forgot to ask is how do you find your credit score?
Oh, so every citizen can go on to. There are so many credit websites that they can go
Mm-hmm.
to, and most of them they give a every year a free report once a year to everyone, and then
Mm-hmm.
after then you will buy the report. So another thing is that when the more you ask for reports from your credit profile, you also affect your credit score because
Wow.
those companies when they go and ask for your credit profile, it to the system is like you are getting credit. So if
Mm-hmm.
you have gone to 6 companies in the past 6 months and every month you're asking for a credit but you're not taking, they just keep going and check asking on your behalf. Of course they're paying for that. But then it looks as you are not handling your credit things well. So that affects your score. So when you want to buy something, like try to get to a point where you are sure you want to do this, and then when you do get the report, get it once off, know what to fix. So if you don't know how to look at your own credit score, find somebody who's a financial advisor who can then help you to explain to you so that you don't go and keep checking on this profile and keep asking for reports because then that makes it look like you are reckless. So yeah.
Hmm. Mm-hmm. Is it a good idea to have clothing accounts, and do they help in establishing a healthy credit score if it's paid for properly?
Yeah, trading accounts are very good for the for those are the small things that I said that makes it easy for the credit score to get better when you're doing well with those. And then the problem with clothing accounts is that they are very expensive.
Mm.
So there's now specials where the store will say if you take these clothes and you pay them off before 6 months, if you wouldn't pay this much interest. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to go and buy clothes with credit, make sure you're taking those specials. Because if you don't, clothing accounts are the most expensive ever. But
Oh, how so?
paying them well, yeah, I think it's because of how they in their supply chain. There's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things that happens in their supply chain, so they are able to charge you the most, and the law allows them to. So if you have a clothing account, make sure you stay on that days they gave you. They said 6 months, you don't pay interest, or you pay 10% only, because they can charge you up to almost 50% interest on a
Mm.
clothing. Mm.
Wow, I had no idea because I thought that you could just pay them whatever amount you have and that will be fine without even considering the amount of interest you will actually be paying on that clothing account. It's So, so we really need to make sure that we are aware and we know what we
Mm,
are paying before we go out, because
mm,
it's very enticing. You go into a shop and then the attendant will come to you and offer you some great specials, etc. You open your account there, and then the next thing you can't make payments because of the high interest levels. Wow. All right, now
mm.
now what happens to your credit score when you cancel all your accounts after paying them up, and now you are essentially debt free, you don't have any other accounts to pay. What happens to the credit score?
Okay. So if you had credit before and then you close the account, so it's important again to close the account because you sometimes with the retail stores you find that they will say, we send you a magazine every month and it costs you £3. And then you there thinking I don't owe them any clothes, but then this magazine keeps being sent to you, and then one day you find out that you owe them.
Mm.
So if you have done the whole thing of say, I don't want any store account, anything, go and close the account. Tell them I am done, which then gives you a score that does not. It's like they give you the last score. They're like, okay, you have had this account for 5 years. Today it's your last year. You paid us well, and then they will have to give you a nice, good last score on the system and carry over, for the rest of life. So
Mhm.
when you finish anything that you have paid off, go and say to them, close the account so that you can get you. So now the thing is that your behavior is, even if you do something, the court would always say, when you were 9, you behaved this way. So with the
Mhm.
credit card again, if you go and close the account, they'll say when this happened, she behaved this way. But if you close the account, then you actually gain good stability on your credit score, other than just leaving the accounts hanging because then they haven't finalized anything. So
Mhm.
whatever that you've done will always count against you or for you. So it's good to do those things where you're closing, and then you ask them to close it up because then you can carry those forward. So it doesn't mean that if you stay for 5 years and you're not buying anything, your credit score changes. It won't change.
All right. And then quickly on the one with the cell phone contracts. Sometimes people forget to close their contract, especially after maybe they upgraded the contract for another year and then did
Mm,
continue the upgrade for the other year. And then, like you mentioned with the magazine story, they keep on debiting your account because both of them are debit orders, and you keep on reversing your account because you know that you did not
mm,
sign up for an upgrade or anything like that. Now, what happens to
mm.
that?
Yeah, so that is one of the very good examples of closing an account. So when you sign up for the cell phone contract, there's a clause in the contract you sign that says it will keep going until you tell us to stop. So
Mm-hmm.
if you haven't gone and tell them stop it, they have a right to charge you for things you maybe don't even need or don't use anymore. So you have to be the one who makes sure that you go and to say, can I cancel? Because now I don't need this. And when they're canceling, they need to give you a cancellation letter just in case something happens later on and you find that you're still owing them money that you don't understand what happened. So make sure that you are canceling specifically the cell phone contracts, because sometimes they will be sending you data that you don't even use. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you no longer even using that number. That data is still going out. If you use the data or you haven't used it, it's still being billed. You are not using. There are so many times where we find that there are things that we pay for that we don't use. But the thing is that it's data. It's said that if we take it out, we could take it out. You come and ask for it back. So canceling those things are it's so critical, even if it's a small thing, because it can just get bigger without without you understanding how it went that way.
And how does debt review affects one's credit score?
Oh, now that is a very tense conversation. Now, first of all, I always say to somebody who wants to go for debt review. Debt review is a process of somebody standing in the gap for you and talking on your behalf with your creditors to say that you cannot afford. So now the same process you can do for yourself. Now you're paying a person 10, 20, 40,000 rand, depending on how much they're charging you, which they will never tell you. You will pay them though. So they're charging you 40,000 rand just to make phone calls to your creditors. And then now, once they've made those phone calls, the creditor, the law says they must then give you less amount to pay. So that is the arrangement where you say, oh no, I can't be able to pay 500 rand. I can only be able to pay 200 rand. So then you will be paying the 200 rand, which the 200 rand means that of course you'll pay for longer. The interest will be higher, but then it's fine. It's 200 rand. But then you are also paying the person who went and negotiated on your behalf. So negotiate on your own behalf. But then in the debt review process, the first step is that I cannot afford to pay for things that I owe, so I need to pay less. So that is a good step in the debt review process. It does not affect your credit score. It says that you are being responsible enough to say that you can't pay for other things. So then they will give you a lower amount to do that. So at that point, you don't need anybody to do debt review for you because you can talk for yourself because you know who you owe. Just go talk to them. But then there's the next level then. Well, maybe you've lost your job, maybe you don't have an income anymore, and you are asking for a relief period. Maybe you're asking for 6 months, it's a car, it's a house. You're saying, I don't have a job yet. I need 6 months break to be able to find an income. So that is when then your credit score will be affected. But again, if you've made the arrangement, that also does not hurt you that much, and you can make the arrangement yourself, which means that you save a lot. So once you can no longer at all be able to pay, so there's different type of debts. There are debts where the company will have to scratch you off their books, so the debt sort of dies. Then you're not liable to pay it anymore. So many people have had that. You know, when the creditors call you and say, "Hello, just confirm that you still owe us," they are trying to revive that contract that says they can't cancel off in their books that they owe you. So sometimes, if you keep saying, "Yeah, my ID number is this, I owe you," that is a debt that is supposed to be cancelled. But immediately they call and you confirm that you owe them, or they say, "No, just send 100 rand. Just send 50 rand. Even if you have 2 rand, send it." You are still keeping it alive because there are other debts that they have insurance that they can be cancelled. But then there are debts where that doesn't work, like a house, a car. Then they have a right to come down and repossess. So in the case of repossession, then your credit score does hit. In the terms of debts being cancelled off, it doesn't really hurt your score if it's according to the law. So that is why when a creditor needs to give you credit, they have to make sure you're working. They need to prove that you do work, you do have an income, you qualify for this. Because if they give you and you don't qualify, then they will have to scratch it off their books. So it's so important. Of course, it's so important if you're going to borrow money to know your rights. Because just like I'm saying, if they keep calling you and saying, "Yeah, what's your ID number? Confirm that you still owe us." That debt is supposed to be cancelled and you don't have to pay it according to the law, but they're just going to make you pay it because every 1 rand that comes into their account messes. So yeah, then that's how the debt review can affect your score. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the case.
All right, Busi, thank you so much for your time and for the insight on credit scores. I hope we will do better to improve our credit scores so that we are more liable for getting whatever loans that we require. But those who are listening, please make sure that you are up to date with your payments and try not to miss payments because that will affect your credit score, especially payments on bigger things like cars. Busi, thank you so much once again and have a wonderful day. Right, so that was Busi Selesho, acclaimed financial advisor and author, taking us through what a credit score is and how you can improve yours. There are ways to improve your credit scores, but if you feel like you cannot make payments, do contact your creditors and let them know what is your situation. Perhaps you can pay less, but try not to miss out on payments, especially those of vehicles. Because you said that missing a vehicle payment is actually more detrimental than missing a home payment. So try not to do that and try to make up all your smaller payments, your clothing accounts, your cell phone accounts. If you can pay for those, try to pay for those because that does boost your credit score. You are listening to the Mid Morning Talk on Salam Media. We will be right back.